Well, the first study in the first book, Making Schools Work, satisfied me intellectually. I'm not saying this was the last word. I'm not saying it was a definitive study. But I am satisfied that it demonstrated that decentralization will produce higher student achievement in urban districts. The new project is meant to answer the question, how does it work? So you decide to decentralize. In New York City, for example, principals today control 6.1% of the money that is spent in their schools. In the autonomy zone schools of New York City, they control 100%. Well, so what do they do with that freedom? That's the point of this study. And actually, I think I have a very good idea what the answer is, what they do. In a traditional public high school, each teacher teaches 5 sections of 30 to 35 students each, thus a total of 150 to 170 students. When I visited Bronx Science in my first study 4 years ago, the chairman of the English department said to me, each of my teachers teaches 150 to 170 students. One result is they don't assign very much writing because they haven't the time to grade it. So an 11th or 12th grader at Bronx Science, highly selected students, writes only 3 papers each semester, 2 short and 1 long. A short paper is defined as 1 or 2 pages. A long paper is 3 to 5. When our students graduate and go to college, if they are assigned a 20-page research paper, they fall apart, she said. In private schools, the typical teacher teaches 55 to 60 students, usually 3 sections of 18 to 20 students each. What matters is not primarily the smaller class size. It's primarily the smaller total number of students. Now the teacher encourages each student to come and see them. Now, you have a distribution of students in each classroom. The top tail, the students are doing very well. You just get out of their way. The middle, you encourage to try a little harder. But the critical part is you've got to bring up the bottom tail so they don't feel like failures and they don't become failures. With 170 students, you can't do anything about that bottom tail. With 55 to 60, you know who they are. The team of teachers gets together probably 2 or 3 times a week to talk about those students and figure out what the teachers need to do as a group to help those students, to bring them in. So I was telling this story to a fellow in Boston, and he said to me, that's what our pilot schools are doing. They're at 55 to 60 students because everybody teaches in those schools. The principal teaches. There is no registrar. A teacher does that. There are no counselors. Each teacher counsels 12 to 15 students. It's like our business school here at Anderson. The dean teaches a course. The director of the doctoral program teaches. The director of the MBA program teaches. The director of the executive MBA teaches. Everybody teaches. If we had a full-time administrative staff, our costs, too, would go through the roof. Every private school I visited does it that way. Everybody teaches. 2 days later, I was in New York with the autonomy zone director. He said, that's what we're doing. Everybody teaches. They have the flexibility to rearrange their schedules and their staffing patterns to make that happen so that they can get to 55 to 60, so that they can spend more time with the students in office hours, so that they can bring up the students who are having problems, get them into the flow. And then I'm in Chicago talking to their chief administrative officer, a former investment banker who's come in to be number 2 in the district. He says, my gosh, what you've described is exactly what happens at our number 1 public school where I've been spending a lot of my time. And now I see why that's so important. These are not soft things we're talking about here. This is not squishy stuff. This is real. 55 to 60 students per teacher versus 150 to 170. No wonder these decentralized systems are turning out so much higher student performance. Now, I have to tell you, these are anecdotal results told to me in the last few weeks as I've been going around the country by a few people. Now I'm about to roll out the scientific apparatus, go into the field, get all the haze out, blow away all the smoke and mirrors, find out, is that really true? And what else is going on along with it? And in another year and a half, I'll know the answer.